Hello and welcome. I'm John. I'm one of the academic tutors on the photography course and I'm also one of the technical instructors. First of all, welcome to the interview. We're delighted to have you. Obviously it's digital this year, so slightly different from the normal sessions we run on campus. When we do those, we like to do a tour and we like to do a little mini workshop as well, just to kind of show you some of the equipment and get used to seeing the facilities we've got. Obviously we can't do that this year, so instead thought it'd be interesting to show you a kind of range of the camera systems we have and just talk through the different merits they have, what you might use them for, and so you can just see some of the stuff you might be able to get your hands on if you come and study with us. What you can't see is below me on this table I've got about £30,000 worth of equipment, ranging from cameras you're probably used to, maybe there's some that you've not had an opportunity to use yet. So we'll start off small and simple and we'll kind of work up from there. First of all, the 35mm camera. So a lot of you, if you've shot analog, would have used one of these already. A lot of colleges are still using these, which is fab. We've got loads available, so 35mm is your thing, totally fine, they're available. But what we do is we kind of introduce some medium format systems to you straight away on the course. And then introduce different ones throughout the years, which we'll come on to. The other option obviously is the DSLR. So we use Nikon cameras on the course. We've got a lot of Nikon D750s, that's the kind of the camera system we mostly use. So if you book a studio space here, you'll get one of those, and there's also some to book out for general use. They're also quite good for doing video work. I'm filming this on one in fact, but they're really great still cameras. So the good thing about these is they're full frame. So by that we mean it's got a large sensor, larger than the broadcast on a lot of digital cameras. By full frame, all that means is that the sensor that captures the data in here is the same size as 35mm film negative. So it's the same surface area. So you'll get really decent big file sizes from that. You can blow them up nice and big and capture loads of information. Let's kind of put a little bit of context into it in my beautifully pre-prepared sheet here. So at the top here we've got 35mm negative. So that's kind of the size you're probably using. To see the frames, but you get an idea of the kind of dimensions of the area you're capturing. The next stage up from that really is medium format. So both these two negatives are from medium format cameras. And you can see straight away that the negative is about 4 times the size of a 35mm or a full frame digital. What's the advantage of that? Well, you're capturing a lot more information. So in a medium format negative, I've got a much bigger surface area to record detail, so I'm getting more information in there, so I can blow my images up much bigger, but also you'll just notice you'll see details in a different way to you're used to. But those cameras also have different functions and can achieve different things. So the first one to show you is the Hasselblad. So in the first year you do a project where you work with these. Really beautiful cameras, quite lightweight and comfortable to use. They go for ages, so most of these cameras are probably built in the 1970s or 80s, but they're really substantial, beautifully engineered, will keep going forever. Square format, so similar to you're used to an Instagram or something like that. So they're quite nice for general purpose use, going around with something that's fairly lightweight, nice and portable you can hand hold. So first year working with those. And then from the second year, we kind of introduce you to a few different sorts of medium formats. So the first one is the Mamiya RZ. So quite a lot bigger. You'll notice straight away, size-wise, we're talking about something that's quite a lot chunkier. The main reason for that, I guess, is it's got this bellows focus. So the feature of these that's different from the Hasselblad and a lot of other cameras is just this bellows. So the lens is moving in and out further away from the back of the camera where the film sits. That means you've got really beautiful control over the focus. You can choose exactly what you want to be sharp and then what you want to be dropping out when you're making your compositions. You can also focus really close up with these straight away, so you can do some nice kind of macro work or kind of close up details in portraits and things. really beautiful clear screens on the top. So this and the Hasselblad I've shown you have these waist level viewfinders, so you're sitting with the camera here looking down into it. You get a really lovely interaction with the world. So if you're doing a portrait, rather than kind of hiding behind a camera and having a bit of distance from your subject, you can suddenly start interacting, looking up and down, slightly more organic way of working perhaps. They are quite heavy, so if you're using on location, often you'll be working with a tripod, but they're a great versatile camera. They also make a very satisfying noise, so if we advance this and take out the dark slide, and you can hear maybe the most satisfying camera noise you'll ever hear. Maybe I'm just sad, but I think that's a joy to behold, that noise. So Mamiya RZ, very popular. A lot of our students go on to buy one of these or kind of shoot most of their third year work on them if they're into the analog process. So the other Mamiya medium format is the Mamiya 7, so a very different style of camera, same size negative as we were just looking at with the RZ, but the camera kind of has different functions and features. So first of all, you'll notice size. You know, compared to the RZ, it's a lot more lightweight, a lot more portable, and it's also a lot smaller and set out more like a DSLR. So this is a rangefinder camera, and that's kind of what's mainly different about it. By rangefinder, we're referring to the way the camera focuses. So in most of the cameras we've been looking at, there's a mirror or a series of mirrors which beams the image from the lens up to your viewfinder. So I don't know if you can see it in the RZ there, if I get some light on it. Mirror, big mirror there, bouncing the image. So I'm seeing what the lens is seeing. With a rangefinder, that's not so. So I've got this little viewfinder I look through to compose, which I'm seeing straight ahead with. There's a little mirror hidden in the camera here which beams up what the lens is seeing. So then in the viewfinder, as I'm composing and changing my focus wheel, I get a little projection of what the lens sees, and I have to kind of line up the mini image from the lens with the main image I'm seeing through my viewfinder. And when those two things line up perfectly, I've got sharp focus. The advantage of that means, because you haven't got all those mirrors and you haven't got that same mechanism, it can be a lot smaller, lenses can be smaller, so more portable. It's also very quick. When you get used to focusing with it, it's incredibly fast to drop in and out of focus. Also, the thing about these is they've got a built-in light meter. So the other medium formats, handheld meter, external measuring of light. With this, it can all happen through the viewfinder like a DSLR, so it's very quick to use. Mostly, I guess, being used by documentary photographers, street photographers, people doing reportage style work who want to be able to be very responsive and kind of shoot what they're seeing very quickly. So totally different camera system and suitable for a totally different job. Then the side step from that, I suppose, is the digital medium format. So this is one of the Pentax GFX cameras. We've got quite a few of these in the department now for loan. And these are great little things. So really sensible layout, very much like a DSLR you'd be used to. So you can have used them with very minimal input straight out of the bag. By digital medium format, all we're talking about is sensor size. So a big sensor, quite a lot bigger than a DSLR. So again, capturing loads of information, amazing tonal and colour ranges, blow your images up much bigger and capture more data, as we've been talking about with the other systems, but kind of in a digital format. Because they're so familiar, I suppose, in how they work and they're set out, they're a great kind of step up from a normal DSLR. So if you're into high-end digital work, then these are really great cameras. They've also got a kind of a multi-purpose viewfinder. So I've got an optical option, so I see what the lens sees, or a digital option, so I get a kind of digital video of what the camera's seeing. The advantage of that means it's very customizable. I can get the lens to show me previews of what my image will look like. It can show me what will or won't be out of focus, what will be under or overexposed. So it's kind of a whole new range of tools you can get through the viewfinder as you're kind of composing and working. And we've got other digital medium formats we can use for studio work. These tend to be for going out on location and field work. So then we move on to the big guns, the slightly larger cameras. I say slightly larger, a lot larger. if you compare that to the Mamiya 7 we were just looking at, considerably bigger in size. So this is a 5x4 Toyo field large format camera. Very different in style, very different from what most people are used to working with. And with this we're talking about a really large negative. So here is the 5x4 neg, hope you can see that. Here is a medium format. This is a 6x7, so shot on the Mamiya 7 we were just looking at. And you can see the difference, there's about 4 of those in one of those. So we're jumping up that scale again of the amount of information we're capturing. You could blow those negatives up massive, but even if you were to print one that standard 10x8 size, you'd notice incredible detail and sharpness. So blades of grass can look really sharp, all the leaves on the trees, really detailed. So you're capturing a great range of information. They've got some unique features, these cameras. First of all, we've got bellows focus again, so the lens moves in and out like this. Really long bellows you can get, which basically means you can focus incredibly close up for kind of macro work and really fine detail. The image is formed on this ground glass screen, so if we have enough light to see, basically you see what the lens is seeing on the screen at the back. Slightly interestingly, it's upside down and back to front, so you kind of have to get used to doing this a little bit to see what you're looking at. But the reason for that is just because all lenses invert images. So by that I mean, as the light comes through the lens, it flips top to bottom and left to right. In most cameras, you've got a mirror or series of mirrors that kind of corrects that. In this, you don't. So you're seeing directly what the lens is seeing, which can offer some kind of fun challenges trying to get your head around which way to move it. The other big feature with these, I guess, is the lens movements. So the big thing they'll do is I can start to do weird and wonderful things with my lens. So I can tilt it in different directions, like this. I could go at angles like that. I can also lift it up and down like this. And that's quite unique. If you've used the tilt shift lens, you'll have something similar. But most cameras, whatever we pick, the lens is kind of in a fixed position and angle from the back of the camera, so you don't have those options. And there's a few purposes for this. So, for example, if I was photographing a tall building with this camera, couldn't get far enough back, I'd tilt the camera to fit the top of the building in. The problem is, as soon as you do that, you get kind of false perspective. So the building will look like it's falling over and you get converging lines, basically. With these cameras, you don't have to do that. So instead of tilting the camera, I make sure, instead you'd use this on a tripod, you'd never handhold for obvious reasons. So instead of tilting the camera, I could just lift my lens up to fit more of the top of the building in. But because then I can keep the camera parallel to the building, so it's not at an angle, the building will appear to be correct, it'll look right, it won't look like it's leaning over, which is quite important. Hence, architectural photographers have often used these, traditionally kind of used them to capture that building in its true form. The other movements, so the more weird and wonderful tilts and shifts you can do, can either be to get really exaggerated depth of field, is the best way of putting it. So, whereas in most cameras you get to kind of a limit of your aperture, you can't get any more depth of field, you're at the smallest aperture you can. On this camera I can then start to tilt the lens, and that gives me a greater range of depth of field, so I can get sharpness right from foreground to infinity. Or I can tilt the lens the wrong direction. So if I start doing weird movements with the lens the way it shouldn't go, let's put it that way, I can then get incredibly shallow depth of field. So I could focus on someone's nose, for example, and tilt the lens so that was sharp, but everything else fell back into a blur behind it. So kind of loads of creative control with them. You will use these in the first year, so alongside the Hasselblad, you will be working kind of on some architecture and location work with that, and the Hasselblad, and kind of printing those and processing the negative yourself. Once you've got access and experience with the different cameras, you can pick the right camera for the right task or project, or sometimes you just find one that gels with you. You find the camera that you just know you need to work with for whatever reason. But we've still got one more. I'm going to have to exit stage left and wheel this in because it is so massive. I can't fit it on my table. So 1 second. Let me try and wheel this in. There we go. I feel we almost need a drum roll or a fanfare to run this in. It's massive. You can see the size of it compared to me. So this is a 10x8 large format camera, so double the size of the 5.4 we were just looking at. Let's give you a few different angles just for a comparison. So it's huge. The negatives are massive. You're filling this entire space with a negative. Huge bellows on it. So again, I've got a real range of focus options with this. I can kind of get incredible detail really close up. It's not for everyone. It's quite a technical thing to use. It's not a mandatory bit of kit, but we kind of have it as an option if you're interested in using it in the studio. So that's about it. A camera for every job, and lots of different options depending on what you're interested in. And hopefully some of them will be new to you, some of them you might be more familiar with. But we really look forward to kind of seeing you during the interview process, and hopefully seeing some of you in September when you come start your studies. Thank you very much.